Greetings, Jay Stone here, Cap and Ball Fanatic Channel. I thought this was a good time to answer a viewer question that I've had several times, but we're going to take it one step further and answer two related viewer questions in the same video. And the first one is, hey Jay Stone, I just bought my first Cap and Ball revolver. How much work do I have to do to get it ready to shoot for the first time? And then the second part of that question comes from a different viewer that said, hey Jay Stone, I've got this Colt Cap and Ball revolver, and it's brand new, and I can't get the wedge out without destroying the gun so that I can clean it up. How am I supposed to do that? Well, you know what? On today's video, we're going to answer both of those questions. But what I want to do today is I want to talk about a question that I've gotten over and over again. And that is that I want to show you what I do to prepare a brand new Cap and Ball revolver straight out of the box for first shooting. A lot of folks, before they shoot it, they degrease it and they tear it apart and they look for burrs and they fix it all up and they try to make it right. I take a different approach. My approach is, as long as the action is smooth, and I'll tell you what these guns are in a minute, as long as it does everything it's supposed to do, I don't feel any holdups. See that? That's pretty good. Then I'm not going to go quite that far because I'm too anxious to shoot the darn things. This same thing. See that? It's pretty good. There's no holdup on it. Everything's smooth. Right? Now, if I felt a holdup, if I felt it being crunchy, if I saw that there was a lot of rubbing along there, which there isn't, I might take it apart and fix it and work on it first. But if they're smooth like these are, and I've had this Pieta Remington Sheriff model, 44 caliber. I've had this for about a month, and I just haven't gotten around to getting it ready to go yet. And I thought, since I can't be outside, I'll do that now. So today, I took delivery of this beautiful beast right here. Is by Pieta. It's a U.S. Marshall 44 caliber, 4 7/8 inch barrel, factory engraved. It's absolutely beautiful. As I said, 44 caliber. It feels really good. Again, it's an EMF imported Cap and Ball revolver that I purchased through Midway USA. And so I just took delivery of this today. So what I want to do is I want to work on a couple of things to get these ready to shoot for the first time. Now, because they're Pietas, or any of the Cap and Ball revolvers that I try to get ready for the first shoot, again, once I figure out that they're okay, is I'm going to focus on a couple, 3 areas. When it's a Colt pattern, and it's a Pieta, I'm going to focus on getting that wedge out of there because Pieta is a little famous for sending factory stuck wedges. And I'll show you how I do that in a second, and it works really great. I haven't tried this one yet, so I don't know. The second thing I'm going to focus on is getting the nipples out. Now, Pietas are usually pretty good about getting the nipples out. They're not overstuck. If you buy Ubertis, they're going to typically have stuck nipples that you're going to have to work on some. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gun apart. I'm going to take the wedge off, the barrel off, the cylinder off, get the nipples out, and I'm going to clean everything I can. It's kind of a simple cleaning. I'm going to make sure I clean the cylinders and the nipples and the barrel really good because remember, these are proofed at the factory, and they're just stuck in a box and a bunch of packing grease is put in them and they're sent, and oftentimes you'll find a lot of nonsense down in there, and you don't know how long it's been sitting in a box, and I've found rust coming out of there before. If it's sat in a box for a while, and the nipples are plugged sometimes. So we're going to go through this now with this U.S. Marshall 44 caliber by Colt. Absolutely, I can't wait to shoot this thing, by the way. I'm really looking forward to both of them. But this one I'm really looking forward to. First thing we have to do is we have to get this wedge out. And I've been asked, in fact, I was just asked this question about a week ago. one of my viewers on YouTube had a cap and ball revolver, a Colt pattern cap and ball revolver for a year or more, and had never been able to get the wedge out. And I assume this worked because I haven't heard back from him. So I hear people get punches and all this stuff. Well, I have found something that works really well, and that is a flint knapping hammer. If you shoot flintlocks or of any kind, you know. And you see this little wedge right here? Let me see. See that little wedge right there? Well, the beauty of that thing is that the width of that wedge is exactly the width of the slot for the wedge. And it's made out of brass, so you're not going to damage your gun. But this thing fits in there absolutely like it was made for it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take something to lean it up on. Oops, that's not working, is it? Let's get something we can use. My new Here's Gone bullet mold box. So I hope you can see this all right. We're going to take this, and I'm going to put that wedge right exactly in that slot. And I'm going to take the hammer, and I'm going to bang it. And sometimes you got it, and it went moved a little bit, so I'll replace it, put the thing back in, and there you go. And out comes the wedge. No marks, no moss, no problems. These are about $12 at Track of the World for other places that sell muzzle loading supplies. If you're going to get some, I recommend it. You can see you might not want to use it after a while for knapping flints because this gets a little dull, but because it's brass, it won't tear up your wedge, and it'll work just great. So there, the wedge is out, and you can see I had to hit it a couple times. Don't be shy. Now we got to get the barrel off. Just push it down so that the ramrod is between. Give it a push to get it off, and there's our barrel. There's our cylinder. And there's the rest of the gun. So I've set the wedge right there. We might have to do some work on this wedge. I'll show you that in a minute. That's what this file is going to be for. So we're going to start with the nipples. This is where that Ted Cash nipple wrench I talked about comes in really handy. If you have one of these or you don't, on the outside it says out right there. So you just take the bit, put it down inside of there, line it up, and it works like a wrench. And you just go like that, take it out. And of course I didn't get it. There you go. See, they're in there a little tight. If you had one of those Traditions nipple wrenches and your nipples coming out of the box are that tight, you're probably not going to get them out. Now, there are other ways to do this. I know people that make their own nipple wrench out of a socket, but I'm not nearly that handy. So I would rather spend the $25 or whatever it is and get this nipple wrench. And as I said in my other video, this is essentially, I've had this for probably 6 years now. And the metal, the steel's never worn. It still works like a charm. So I believe fully, unless I do something to damage it, stupid, that this is going to be the last nipple wrench that I'm ever going to own. So you can get see how tight those can be? And this is why I go through this, because we got little stuff coming out of there. That's powder from the proofing that came falling out of there. Yep, you can see some gunk down inside of there. So we'll get to that in just a second. You hear that snap when I cut them loose? Remember, we're not putting them back on that tight. We're putting them on finger tight, but they come, I guess the factory wants to make sure the nipples arrive with the gun or something. I'm not sure. Find the outside, put it on there. get a good twist. This one doesn't want to come, so let's give me a little grip help here. And there we go. If you need grip help, this is the most I've ever had to do to hold the cylinder in place to be able to get the nipples off, is to take a cloth and just give myself a little help. If you don't have grip strength, you can wrap a piece of leather around your cylinder or cloth and put it in a vise real tight, and then this gives you a chance to get down on it, but make sure you do something to protect that. All right, so we've got the nipples off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to throw them in this tin. We're going to take our moose milk. We're going to fill that thing up. And we're going to let that soak for a minute. And we're going to take the cylinder. It's got stuff down in there. And remember, only about 1 or 2 of these cylinders is going to have been fired, because I don't think they proof all of them. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put the barrel in there. That's hot water with the Dawn. And now we'll go to cleaning up the rest of the Revolver. And really all I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it down. All right, and we've got that cleaned up. Wipe the gunk, as much of the gunk off of it as I can, so I can. Sometimes you want to work hard on getting it off the grip here, especially these walnut grips, because if you get too much cleaning fluid on those walnut grips, holding this Revolver steady will be a little bit like trying to hold a wet bar of soap. It won't do you very well. So there. So we've got that. I'm just going to, at some point, I'll lube that up and we'll go. We've let this sit now for about 10 minutes or so. Nipples in the gunk here and cylinder and whatnot. So let's clean this out. So we'll wipe that off good. My hand good and dry. And we'll go down and let's see what's in here. Sometimes all kinds of colorful looking lube and grease comes out of here. We'll just spin it around on that, pull it out, and there you go. See, there's stuff that comes out of there. So you do want to clean these things out, because not like it wouldn't shoot, but Lord only knows how long that stuff's been in there. I mean, they made these in Italy. They imported them, EMF imported them. How long it takes to get here, to get the EMF, and then how long was it sitting on their shelves before it got to Midway, and how long did it sit on Midway's shelf before it got to me, see? And of course, once in a while, I forget which cylinder I was working on. Just push it down in there, and I just grab a hold of the end of this thing to hold it, and I just spin the cylinder on it. That makes it easier than trying to do it with my wrist. And there's some more stuff that came out of that. That's chunky stuff. So I think we've gotten about 4 of them. It's a beautiful cap and ball revolver. It's a Navy caliber, or no, it's a Army caliber, 44 caliber. I like to try to be as historically consistent in my descriptions as possible. So I'm calling 44 caliber 1851 Navy frames these days. I'm calling them the Army caliber on a Navy frame, which allows us to keep using the. So this is the Army caliber 44. Historically, that's what 44 calibers were called, on a Navy frame, which is historically that was the 36 caliber of the 51 Navy. So now what I'll do is just to make sure I got them all, I'll wind this through here one more time on each one of them, just to see if I got all. And there's a little gunk down in there. I'm sure I skipped over one somewhere. I'll bet I skipped over this one. Yep. That's the one I skipped over, and don't ask me how I knew that. It's just a sixth sense. Sometimes this is stupid, but when you spin these, if you hear it go squeak, 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 typically it means there's stuff in the cylinder. If it doesn't make any noise when you spin it, that typically means they're clean. And that one I predicted was squeaking when I went around. So remember that. That's a little known fact you just learned here. So if it squeaks when you spin it, you probably missed that one and you got some stuff down in there. Try it yourself. You'll find out that what I'm saying is true. Yep, there we go. Now I'll take it last and run it through that right there. And look at that. That's on all of our cap and ball revolvers. I'm sure many of you know this, but this spot where the arbor sits just gets filthy. So I'll run that through there and get that all cleaned out. All right, let's do the same thing with the barrel. Now the barrel is going to be dirty again because they shot it. Put it there and run that down through there. And of course it's stuck down in there, so we'll just take that, push it out. See? Now out of that barrel comes what's left of the proof shots. So now that we've taken care of the cylinder and the barrel, and we're going to work on the wedge, let's take care of the nipples. And this is where this little Traditions nipple wrench comes in, because on new ones, I've often needed this nipple pick because I've had these nipples packed completely full of grease before. And you got to poke them out and blow them out and all that stuff. So we're just going to take it and we're going to wipe off all the stuff best we can. Wipe it down good. And instead of thinking it's not going to happen, I'm just going to take the nipple pick and I'm going to run right down there and have it come out. And then wipe it a little bit. And then blow through it. That one was fine. Okay. And we'll do the same with all of these. And we'll be ready to put it back together and take the nipple pick, run it down through there, get it through there good. Blow on it, we'll be good. So we'll do the other 4 of these, and then we'll be back to put it back together. So we got all the nipples cleaned out. They weren't packed up with grease this time, which is good. Now we just go about adding our own anti-seize lube like we did before. I use these long Q-tips. They work really, really well. You don't have to put much on there. Just give it a little. I'm trying to keep the light headlamp focus on there. Just give it a little bit of go there. Oops. Nice fingers. Drop it down inside of there. Take our nipple wrench, line it up, and get it going. And then when I put them down, remember, I don't want them to come off like they did the first time, so I'm just going to screw them down till they hit bottom. When they hit bottom, I'm going to give one more twist. So they're just they're just finger tight. So we do that for all of our nipples. So if you remember the deep cleaning video, I've got all the nipples in. They're all got their anti-seize lube. If you look down through there with your headlamp, you can see that some of this anti-seize lube sort of works its way back through the thread. So I just take a clean Q-tip and I go down there and clean those out. I just don't want that gunk down in there to seep back into the nipple channel and cause me a misfire when I finally get this thing out to the range. Anyway, so there we are. So now we want to put this gun back together. And we're going to do what we've done in the past. We're going to take a patch. We're going to spray it with aerosol ballistol. And we're going to run this patch down each of the cylinders with one good swoop just to lube them up and get a little rust proofing going, and do that in all 6 of them. Doesn't take much. Just put a nice coating on it like that. And then when we're done with that, we're going to take this last bit and we're going to run it through there. Yeah. Oh, there's still some in there. Okay. So anyways, and then we'll take another patch and we'll spray it all up with Ballistol really good. And we'll run it down the barrel really nice. Get that lubed and rust proofed. And then we'll take it and we'll wipe all this off real good. And then the last thing I will do is I will take that and I will run that with a smaller thing, or smaller jag right down where the arbor rests. And there we go. So now the last thing I will do before I put this back together, and you're going to say, why would you do that? Isn't that all lubed? Well, I don't know if it's lubed. I haven't taken it apart. So I'm just going to take this, give a little squirt down the thing, squirt this, squirt this. That's my arbor lube. Squirt it on there. And then we're going to take that. And then we're going to take this. And now comes the wedge. Let's see if we need to do any work on our wedge. I bet we will. So I'm going to try to put the wedge in and see if it'll go through. Nope, I'm going to need to do some work on the wedge. So let me take this wedge back out and we'll take a peek at it. So the wedge is a little wide, which means I could bang it in there with a hammer, but I don't want to have to bang it in there with a hammer because I might not always have a hammer with me. So I just take a little bit of a file out, and what I've done is I've sort of lined it up. I put it in as far as I could. Got it in there straight and tried to look down in there and see where it's hitting, and it's sort of hitting on the bottom. So we're going to take some off the bottom here and maybe a little off the edge. So I'm going to take this file, and because there's a little lip on that, I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to take this file, and I'm just going to file this a bit until I start to see it give way, and there we go. And I'm going to take this file, I'm going to just rub it back and forth on this file, and I'm going to round the bottom lip off a little bit, take it right up to that notch, and I'm going to, okay, let's look at it and see. Yeah, we got some off of there, so let's see what happens now. And it's sort of the trial and error deal, right? So it's a little closer, but it's still hitting bottom a little bit, so let's do a little more. I've tried to bend the spring down a little bit, but that doesn't work very well. It's hard to get under there without running the risk of breaking it off, so I'd rather just file this a little bit. There we go. Let's see if that works. Now we'll take it, get it lined up. And we're really close now. Take a little off the side. You don't have to take a whole lot off. Round up the edge a little bit that catches on the lip. Okay. And now it's just about there. But I put it in too soon. Tap it again. See, it's coming out a lot easier. All right, so there you saw me trying to fit the wedge. It took, I certainly sped it up for you through that process, but it ended up taking me about 10-15 minutes to get this wedge to where I wanted it. Now, you remember where it started. I had to bang it out really hard with the flint knapping hammer and a mallet. And as we worked, took a little off, worked it, took a little off, worked it, it kept getting closer. And finally, at the end, it came out the way I wanted it. And if you look here, that's the wedge is in there right. The little hook is on the outside of the barrel. And I got it down to where I can just do that, and out it comes. And that's sort of a perfect fit, because what's going to happen, at least in my experience, is, and I can put it in with my finger, get it straight, push it in, and there you see it. So what's going to happen is that over time, as you shoot this, it's going to shoot itself a little bit loose. So I would say over time, hundreds of shots, I'll be able to push that out with my thumb. So when you do the work on the wedge, you don't want to make it so loose that if it shoots itself loose, the wedge will come out. Now, Ubertis have it sort of more historically correct, where this screw on the back actually holds the wedge on the barrel, which is the way it was supposed to be. Pietta's screw is offset just a little too much, and so Pietta's screw is sort of worthless. So if this wedge was to try to fly out, it would fall right out on the ground. So just remember that. And this happens to be a Pietta. So the screw on this one is kind of worthless. But nonetheless, I want it to be so I can tap it out. I said I'd like them so I can push them out with my thumb, and eventually that will happen as this thing shoots loose over time. But right now, I don't mind tapping it. You saw it's just a tiny little tap. And there we go. So there you have it. My answers to two related viewer questions. One is, how much work do I have to do in order to get my cap and ball revolver ready to shoot? And I think we answered that pretty well. Unlike some others, and this is no criticism of others, because these are some of the people that I've watched over the years, I don't tear it all down and deburr it and all that stuff before I take it out and shoot it for the first time, unless I notice some crunchiness or some problems. And on both of the cap and ball revolvers I showed you today, that wasn't the case. So I take out the wedge, reshape the wedge, take out the nipples, clean them up, clean up the barrel, clean up the cylinders, do some lube, and we leave it at that. Go out and put 50 rounds through it, and that will expose if there are any problems we need to fix. And the same thing with the Remington that I showed you, except we don't have a wedge to worry about. I just take, when it's not crunchy, I take it apart. I take the nipples out, clean the cylinder, clean the nipples, clean the barrel, lube it all up, take it out, put 50 or 60 rounds through it to see if there are any problems we have to worry about. My philosophy, why should I do extra work if I don't have to? I might mess it up trying to make it better. The other thing that I think came out of this today is I've been asked this question so many times, how do I get out a stuck wedge? And Pietta Colt pattern cap and ball revolvers are famous for having stuck wedges coming from the factory. And I showed you my technique with a flint knapping hammer. It works every single time. And then I took you through most of the process of reshaping the wedge so that I could get it out with just a little tap. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to the next time I see you. Thanks for coming. We'll see you again on down the road the next time.